Hey, this is BJ Vanover, and this is Sonic Treason. Today we're going to go over your home mixing setup. So most of us don't have, adequate funds to be able to, treat your room and buy monitors and all of the things that would require you to, have the equivalent of a professional studio level environment to mix your music in. So the first approach I think would be best for this situation when you're recording yourself is to just use headphones. I think there's some pretty good, $300 to $400 headphones out there. I think Sennheiser makes some good ones. Yamaha makes some good ones. There's just a lot of options out there, and you could use just whatever headphones that you have used and, mix on them. I know Andrew Sheps uses headphones to mix music, so it's not impossible. Obviously, he has a big advantage with having all the music that is recorded and sent to him, recorded in the best studios with the best treatment and already compressed, already ran through tons of processing, ran through consoles and things like that. So that does make it easier. So the first thing that I would recommend is obviously use some headphones. So if you're beyond that stage, the second approach is to use monitors. Now, in my situation, I have a separate room and I use monitors. So the biggest factor for mixing with monitors is your room. It's not your monitors. I think this is a common misconception. It's more important to treat your room than anything else. Second will be the monitors. This is kind of the opposite. Well, I guess it's kind of similar to recording. The number one thing for the best quality sound is the instrument itself, whether it be your drum and how well it's tuned, or your guitar if it's intonated, your bass cab, and then it goes to your microphone, how good the microphone is, and then preamp, and then the converter, which is your audio interface. And these days, audio interfaces and digital mixers that are audio interfaces as well are really good. So when it comes to mixing on monitors, the order of magnitude goes, the biggest impact will be the room treatment. Second will be your monitors. And the first thing that you want to do is treat the immediate reflections. And what that means is the walls. So your speakers are in front of you. My speaker is right here. Treat the walls, because right next to the speaker, this is my listening position. Wall will be there. So essentially you don't want the sound to hit that wall and come back. You want the sound to only come directly to you and not have reflections bounce and come to you and cancel any frequencies. So walls first. These are panels that I've built, and actually above me I have a cloud that I built. Well, my brother and I built, and essentially that blocks the ceiling. I built my studio desk. I don't have any treatment on the desk itself. I do have a couple of panels to my right here and a big 4x3 foot panel on the back wall. So those are just homemade panels with rock wool in them, and fabric. I don't even have the Gulliver main fabric, it's just whatever I had laying around. But those are very important things as far as monitoring goes. So secondly is your monitors. What monitors do I recommend? I have the CLA 10 Avantone Pros. They're essentially the new version of the Yamaha NS10. Now, your monitors are not going to make you mix good. What's going to make you mix good is being used to your monitors, knowing how good music sounds through them, and mixing your music and comparing to those other mixes at the same time. So using reference tracks, car checks, things like that. You have to put the time in to try to get your mix on the same, plane as, say, a professional mix. And it takes time to do that. It takes time to train your ears to get to that level. But once you get to a point where you're close, you'll realize that you don't use a ton of plugins to get to that point. It's actually a lot simpler than people make it. If you're making, I have a good friend of mine, Joe Fitz. What's up, Joe? If you're making a ton of EQ moves that are huge, there's probably something wrong. Joe said one of his teachers told him that he went into a studio and saw a guy turning a bunch of EQ knobs, compression, all kinds of stuff. And the first thing that he thought was something's wrong. The mic's either in the wrong position, or he has the wrong microphone, because microphones have different voicings. Some are bright and harsh, some are darker, some have more low end response, some have less. That's where mic selection really comes in. So yeah, if you're doing that to your tracks, there's something wrong in the recording phase. So aside from that, you should be able to, even if you have a small room, you should be able to get enough treatment put on your walls and ceiling to be able to get a decent enough mix in a small room. It's not impossible to do. People are doing it on headphones. People are doing it in small rooms. I've seen a mixing setup where it was two NS10s, essentially two monitors this close to each other, left and right, and mixes were great. So yeah, it's not impossible to do. The other thing would be to, once you get your monitor set up, the other thing would be to use something like Room EQ Wizard. It's a free software, and you use a microphone. I think I have one here. So yeah, you want to use a room measurement microphone. This here is a Behringer ECM 8000. This is an omnidirectional microphone. What you do is you download the free Room EQ Wizard software, point it at your left speaker, you point it at your right speaker. It takes measurements for you, and then it'll tell you the EQ settings it recommends for your master bus. And essentially you just put an EQ plugin on there and have it be dual mono, and whatever it tells you to adjust on the left side, you make those adjustments. Whatever it tells you to adjust on the right side, you make those adjustments on the right side. That's a fairly cheap way of going about doing that. Well, it's a fairly cheap way of correcting issues with your room treatment. Do I think it's full on effective? In my experience, no. Does it help? It can. But I think the best thing to do is just learn your room and treat it as best as you can. Now, in addition to Room EQ, you can use something like SonarWorks. SonarWorks is essentially the same thing. It's a software that you'll use a room measurement microphone, and you'll do the same test, left, right speaker, and it will allow you to, or it will put its own EQ on your master bus. So the other thing with setting up your monitors, I set mine up to be at about ear height, and I measured from each wall in equal distance to the speakers and the listener. So where I'm sitting here, the measurement from my ear to this speaker is the same as the measurement from my ear to this speaker, and then the distance between them is the same. So it's an equilateral triangle. I've found that getting those measurements right makes a huge difference in what you're able to hear. My mixes started translating better once I got those measurements correct. So I hope this helps to explain how to set up a mixing room in your home studio. If you have any questions, post them in the comments. I'll see you next time.